The Galactic Dynasty had long been the dominant power in the known galaxy. Over the centuries, its insatiable ambition had driven it to conquer and assimilate countless alien civilizations into its ever-expanding empire. Through a combination of advanced technology, ruthless military might, and cunning political maneuvering, the dynasty had systematically eliminated any real threat to its hegemony. At the heart of the Galactic Dynasty's capital world, the towering spires of the imperial palace bore witness to the opulent excesses of the ruling class. Within its gilded halls, the dynasty's high council convened to oversee the governance of their sprawling domains. It was here that the decision was made to strike against the lone human spacecraft that had suddenly appeared on the edge of their territory. "This primitive vessel dares to trespass into our sovereign space," scoffed Grand Empress Alara, her brow furrowing in disdain. "We must make an example of these humans, lest any other upstart civilizations think to challenge our supremacy." The other members of the council murmured their assent, their eyes glinting with a mixture of arrogance and anticipation. For too long, they had faced no real opposition to their rule. The prospect of crushing this seemingly insignificant human incursion promised a welcome distraction from the tedium of galactic administration. "Dispatch our finest fleet at once," Alara commanded, her voice echoing through the cavernous chamber. "Destroy this vessel and its crew. Leave no trace of their existence." Bowing deferentially, the dynasty's military commanders hurried to carry out the Empress' orders. Within hours, a massive armada of sleek, arrow-shaped warships had been mobilized and was tearing through the void of space towards the human craft's last known coordinates. Aboard the dynasty's flagship, Admiral Xendra oversaw the tactical preparations with a cold, clinical precision. In her decades of service, she had led her forces to victory against countless alien civilizations. The idea of a single, primitive human vessel posing any real threat was laughable. "Sensors detect the target vessel," Milady reported a crewman, his voice betraying a hint of uncertainty. "It appears to be slowing, maintaining a holding pattern." Xendra's lips curled into a cruel smirk. "So the humans have realized the futility of their position and opted to surrender. How disappointing." She paused, considering. "No matter. Order the fleet to move in for the kill. I want this matter resolved swiftly." The dynasty's warships surged forward, their formidable weapons powering up in anticipation of the impending engagement. Yet, as they drew closer, the crew's confidence began to waver. The human vessel, far from cowering in fear, remained steadfast, its hull glimmering with an unfamiliar sheen. "Milady, our scans indicate the target has active shielding," one of the officers exclaimed, his voice tinged with alarm. "And their weapons are powering up. They're preparing to engage." Xendra's eyes narrowed, her brow furrowing in consternation. "Impossible. No primitive civilization should possess such technology. Order the fleet to open fire. Destroy that vessel at once." The dynasty's ships unleashed a barrage of searing energy beams and cascading missile barrages, the darkness of space erupting in a blaze of destructive light. Yet, to the astonishment of the attackers, the human craft's shielding held firm, deflecting the onslaught with ease. Gripping the armrests of her command chair, Xendra watched in mounting disbelief as her forces' assault proved ineffectual. How is this possible?" she muttered, her composure slipping. Sensing an opportunity, the human vessel suddenly sprang into action, its own weapons blazing to life. Beams of concentrated energy lanced out, carving through the dynasty's ships with startling precision. One by one, the mighty warships began to succumb to the unexpected onslaught, their hulls buckling under the relentless barrage. "Order a full retreat." Xendra barked, her voice laced with a rare note of panic. "We must regroup and reassess our tactics. This human filth will not prevail against the might of the Galactic Dynasty." As the battered remnants of the dynasty's fleet fled the battlefield, the human vessel remained steadfast, its commanding presence a silent testament to the hidden strengths of a civilization the dynasty had so casually dismissed. The arrogance of the Galactic Dynasty had cost them dearly, and the ripples of this unexpected defeat would soon be felt across the galaxy. Captain Emily Harrington watched grimly as the last of the Galactic Dynasty's ships retreated into the void, their once imposing forms battered and scarred from the unexpected clash. Though her crew had emerged victorious, she knew this was only a temporary reprieve. The Dynasty would not take this defeat lightly, and it was only a matter of time before they returned with overwhelming force. "Communications are back online, Captain," reported Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen, her fingers flying across the ship's control panels. "Our message to Starfleet Command has been sent. We can only hope they receive it in time." Harrington nodded, her expression grim. "Unfortunately, we may not have the luxury of waiting for reinforcements. The Dynasty will be regrouping, and they won't make the same mistake twice." She paused, her brow furrowing in contemplation. "We need to find a way to buy ourselves more time." Chen's eyes widened as she studied the sensor readouts. "Captain, our scanners are detecting an unusually high concentration of neutrino emissions in the neighboring system. It could be an unstable wormhole." Harrington's lips curled into a determined smile. "Then that's where we'll head. If we can navigate that wormhole, it may buy us the time we need to formulate a proper defense strategy." She turned to the helm officer. "Set a course, maximum warp. We need to reach that wormhole before the Dynasty tracks us down." The sleek human vessel surged forward, its powerful engines propelling it through the vast expanse of space. As they neared the coordinates of the anomaly, the crew grew increasingly tense, their eyes fixed on the sensors. "Wormhole detected, Captain," Chen announced, her voice betraying a hint of uncertainty. "Readings indicate it's highly unstable, with unpredictable fluctuations in its event horizon." Harrington's jaw tightened. "We don't have a choice. Helm, prepare to engage the wormhole. All hands, brace for impact." The human ship plunged into the swirling vortex, its shields straining against the turbulent energies flowing through the distortion. The bridge rocked violently, sparks and warning klaxons filling the air as the crew fought to maintain control. Gripping the armrests of her chair, Harrington steeled herself, her eyes narrowed in concentration. "Status report. Shields at 60% and holding," Chen replied, her voice strained. "But the wormhole's instability is increasing. We won't be able to maintain structural integrity much longer." Harrington's mind raced, searching for a solution. Suddenly, an idea struck her. "Helm, begin charging the main plasma cannons. We're going to have to fight our way out of this." The human vessel's weapon systems whirred to life, their powerful energies building to a crescendo. With a deafening roar, the cannons unleashed a barrage of concentrated plasma bolts, piercing the wormhole's twisting fabric. The bridge trembled violently as the ship was racked by powerful gravitational stresses, but Harrington refused to relent. "Keep firing. We have to stabilize the event horizon." Gritting their teeth, the crew continued their assault, the furious energy blasts carving a path through the increasingly turbulent wormhole. Slowly, agonizingly, the distortion began to smooth, the twisting energies easing their grip on the human vessel. "We're through," Chen cried, her face breaking into a relieved grin. "Sensors indicate a stable exit point ahead." Harrington let out a ragged breath, her shoulders sagging slightly. "Helm, take us out of here. Maximum warp." As the human ship burst forth from the wormhole's event horizon, the crew let out a collective sigh of relief. But their respite was short-lived, for awaiting them on the other side was a sight that chilled their blood. Scattered across the star-studded void were the unmistakable silhouettes of Galactic Dynasty warships, their weapons primed and ready. "Report," Harrington barked, her voice taut with tension. "Sensors detect over 24 Dynasty vessels." "Captain," Chen replied, her fingers flying across her console. "They must have anticipated our escape route and laid a trap." Harrington's jaw tightened. "Hail them. Let's see if we can reason with these arrogant fools before they decide to open fire." The bridge view screen crackled to life, revealing the impassive face of an imposing Dynasty admiral. Human vessel, you have defied the will of the Galactic Dynasty for the last time. Surrender immediately, or be destroyed. Harrington's eyes narrowed. Admiral, we have no desire for further conflict. We are a peaceful people, seeking only to return to our home. Allow us to pass, and we will be on our way. The Dynasty Admiral's lips curled into a disdainful sneer. You truly believe we would allow such a transgression to go unpunished? You have grown far too bold, human. Your kind will be made an example of, so that no other civilizations dare to challenge our supremacy. With a dismissive wave of his hand, the transmission cut off, and the Galactic Dynasty's warships surged forward, their weapons blazing. Harrington's expression hardened as she turned to her crew. All hands, prepare for battle. We may be outnumbered, but we've proven we're more than a match for these arrogant fools. This time, we'll show them the true strength of humanity. The human vessel's shields flared to life, and its powerful weapon systems roared to life, ready to face the full might of the Galactic Dynasty head-on. As Captain Emily Harrington's human vessel faced off against the overwhelming Galactic Dynasty fleet, a desperate plan began to form in her mind. They were outnumbered and outgunned. The odds of emerging victorious in a prolonged direct engagement were slim at best. But if they could somehow buy themselves more time, perhaps there was a chance to turn the tide of the battle. Lieutenant Commander Chen, hail the Dynasty fleet again. Harrington commanded, her eyes narrowing in determination. I have a proposal for their commander. Chen looked up from her console, her brow furrowed in concern. Captain, I'm not certain they'll be receptive to any overtures from us. The Dynasty's forces seem intent on destroying us outright. Harrington's lips thinned into a resolute line. We have to try. If we can't reason with them, then we'll have to find another way to escape. But I need to buy us more time. Time to enact my plan. Nodding grudgingly, Chen re-established the communication link, and once again, the imperious visage of the Dynasty Admiral appeared on the view screen. Human, you waste my time with your meaningless pleas, the Admiral spat, his eyes glinting with barely contained fury. Surrender now, or be obliterated. Harrington raised a hand, her expression calm and unwavering. Admiral, I understand your desire to make an example of us. But surely the Galactic Dynasty has no need to waste its resources on such a primitive civilization as our own. She paused, gauging the Admiral's reaction. Why not allow us to depart in peace? We pose no threat to your empire. The Dynasty commander's lips curled into a contemptuous sneer. You arrogant upstarts dare to bargain with the might of the Galactic Dynasty. Your kind will be crushed, no matter how you plead for mercy. Harrington's eyes narrowed shrewdly. Then perhaps we could offer you something in exchange for our lives. Information, technology, anything that might be of value to your empire. The Admiral's expression suddenly grew calculating, and Harrington knew she had struck a chord. The Galactic Dynasty, for all its military might, was driven by an insatiable hunger for power and dominance. If they could exploit that weakness, perhaps they might just have a chance. Speak quickly, human, the Admiral growled, before I lose my patience entirely. Seizing the opportunity, Harrington launched into her proposal. We possess knowledge of advanced propulsion systems that could dramatically increase the range and speed of your vessels. In return for our lives, we would be willing to share this technology with the Galactic Dynasty. The Admiral's eyes narrowed, his fingers steepling before him as he considered the offer. This technology of which you speak, how advanced are we talking? Capable of traversing vast distances in a fraction of the time it takes your current ships. Harrington replied, her tone carefully measured. Imagine the power it would grant your empire, the worlds you could subjugate, the resources you could claim. All we ask is that you spare our lives and allow us to return home. The Dynasty commander's gaze became intense, the calculations clearly visible behind his eyes. Finally, he gave a curt nod. Very well, human. You have a deal. Transmit the schematics for this propulsion technology, and we shall spare your vessel." Harrington's heart raced as she acknowledged the agreement, her fingers flying across the ship's control panel to initiate the data transfer. But even as the information streamed across the communications link, a plan was formulating in her mind, one that would hopefully give them the edge they needed to escape the Dynasty's clutches. As the last of the schematics were transmitted, the Admiral's features twisted into a self-satisfied grin. "Excellent. Now, as promised, you and your crew will be allowed to depart, but do not think for a moment that this changes anything. The Galactic Dynasty will be watching your every move, human. One false step, and you will be destroyed." With that, the transmission cut off, and the Dynasty fleet began to withdraw, their massive warships slowly turning and receding into the void. Harrington let out a deep breath, her shoulders sagging slightly with relief. "Chen, status report." The lieutenant commander's fingers danced across her console, her brow furrowed in concentration. "The Dynasty ships are pulling back, Captain. But they're not jumping to warp. It appears they're holding position, waiting for us to make our move." Harrington's lips curved into a grim smile. "Exactly as I expected. Ready the engines, Shen. We're about to put on a show for our generous benefactors." As the human vessel's engines flared to life, Harrington turned to her crew, her expression resolute. "Men and women of Earth, the time has come to prove our worth to the galaxy. We may be outnumbered, but we are not without allies. Reach out to our new friends. The Galactic Dynasty may think they have us trapped, but they're about to learn a valuable lesson. You don't mess with humanity." The bridge erupted in a chorus of determined cheers as Harrington's words galvanized her crew. With renewed vigor, they set to work, preparing to execute the daring plan that just might give them the edge they needed to escape the clutches of the Galactic Dynasty. As Captain Emily Harrington's human vessel surged away from the Galactic Dynasty's blockade, a flurry of activity erupted on the bridge. Crew members scrambled to their stations, fingers dancing across consoles as they prepared for the daring plan their commander had set in motion. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen's brow was furrowed in concentration as she monitored the sensor feeds. "Captain, the Dynasty ships are holding position, just as you predicted. It seems they're content to let us make the first move." Harrington's lips thinned into a resolute line. "Excellent. Begin transmitting the coded message on all available subspace frequencies. If our new allies are out there, they'll receive it." Chen nodded, her fingers flying across the communications panel. "Message away, Captain. Now we wait and see if our gamble pays off." Tension hung thick in the air as the human vessel raced through the void, its powerful engines propelling it ever deeper into uncharted space. Harrington stood at the center of the bridge, her gaze fixed on the view screen, her mind racing with the implications of their next move. After what felt like an eternity, a series of proximity alarms began to blare, drawing the crew's attention. "Captain, sensors are picking up multiple vessels emerging from warp," Chen announced, her voice tinged with a hint of surprise. "They're not Dynasty ships." Harrington's eyes widened slightly as the unknown vessels materialized on the view screen, their sleek, unfamiliar designs a stark contrast to the angular warships of the Galactic Dynasty. "Hail them, Lieutenant Commander. Let's see who's come to our aid." The bridge view screen crackled to life, revealing the image of an alien commander, his features etched with a cautious curiosity. "This is Captain Selrose of the Galanar Resistance. We received your coded transmission, human. What is it you require of us?" Harrington straightened her posture, her expression resolute. "Captain Selrose, I am Emily Harrington, commander of the human vessel Endeavor. We find ourselves in a precarious situation, having incurred the wrath of the Galactic Dynasty." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the Galanar ships surrounding them. "We were hoping you and your forces might be willing to assist us in our escape." Selrose's brow furrowed, and for a moment, Harrington feared he might refuse. Then, to her surprise, the alien commander's features softened into a faint smile. It seems the Galactic Dynasty has once again underestimated the capabilities of a supposedly primitive civilization. Celeros mused, his tone tinged with a hint of amusement. Very well, Captain Harrington. The Galanar Resistance will gladly lend you our aid. Harrington felt a surge of relief wash over her. Thank you, Captain. We're prepared to provide any intelligence or technology we can in exchange for your assistance. Celeros raised a hand, silencing her. There is no need for such bargaining, Captain. The Galanar Resistance has long been subjugated by the Galactic Dynasty's tyranny. Your struggle against their forces is our struggle as well. His expression hardened with resolve. We will not allow the dynasty to crush another civilization under the weight of their ambition. Turning to his crew, Celeros barked a series of orders, his voice ringing with a newfound determination. All ships, prepare for battle. We'll provide cover for the human vessel while they make their escape. The Galanar vessels surged forward, their powerful engines propelling them towards the waiting dynasty fleet. Harrington watched, her heart pounding, as the two armadas clashed in a brilliant display of firepower. Lieutenant Commander Chen, status report, Harrington called out, her eyes never leaving the unfolding battle. The Galanar ships are engaging the dynasty forces, Captain, Chen replied, her fingers flying across her console. Their shielding and weapons systems are proving to be a match for the dynasty's technology. We're clear to make our escape. Harrington nodded, her expression grim. Then let's not waste this opportunity. Helm, set a course for the nearest stable wormhole. Maximum warp. The human vessel's engines roared to life, propelling it swiftly through the void as the Galanar and dynasty ships traded furious barrages of energy fire. Harrington watched grimly as the battle unfolded, her mind already racing with the implications of their unexpected alliance. Captain, the dynasty fleet is breaking off their pursuit, Chen reported, her voice tinged with surprise. It appears the Galanar forces have managed to hold them at bay. Harrington felt a wave of relief wash over her. Excellent work, Lieutenant Commander. Keep monitoring the situation. But for now, let's focus on reaching that wormhole. Once we're safely on the other side, we can plan our next move. As the human vessel streaked through the void, Harrington couldn't help but feel a renewed sense of hope. The Galactic Dynasty may have underestimated the resolve of humanity, but now, with the unexpected aid of the Galanar Resistance, they just might have a chance to turn the tide of this conflict. Hold on, my friends, Harrington murmured, her gaze fixed on the distant horizon. Help is on the way. The Galactic Dynasty's armada had been caught off guard by the sudden arrival of the Galanar Resistance forces, their concentrated assault momentarily throwing the mighty warships into disarray. But even as the human vessel Endeavor raced towards the safety of the nearby wormhole, the dynasty's commanders were already regaining their composure, determined to crush this unexpected challenge to their supremacy. Aboard the dynasty flagship, Admiral Xendra's eyes narrowed in a mix of fury and frustration as she watched the hated human craft slip ever closer to its escape. Fools! She spat, her knuckles white, as she gripped the armrests of her command chair. How dare these pathetic rebel scum interfere with the will of the Galactic Dynasty? Whirling to face her subordinates, Xendra's features twisted into a savage snarl. Redeploy the fleet. Concentrate all fire on those meddlesome Galanar ships. The human vessel is to be captured, not destroyed. I want to see the look on their faces when they realize their futile resistance has been for naught. The dynasty's warships surged forward, their massive hulls filling the void as they bore down on the Galanar forces. Xendra watched with a grim satisfaction as her ships unleashed a devastating barrage of energy beams and missile barrages, the Galanar vessels straining under the onslaught. Report, the Admiral demanded, her eyes narrowed to slits. The Galanar ships are sustaining heavy damage, Milady, one of the crewmen replied, his voice tinged with a hint of trepidation. But they're holding their ground, refusing to break off their pursuit of the human vessel. Xendra's lips curled into a contemptuous sneer. Foolish rebels. Do they truly believe they can stand against the might of the Galactic Dynasty? She paused, a calculating gleam entering her eyes. Very well, if they wish to martyr themselves, then so be it. Order the fleet to concentrate their fire on the human craft's escape route. As the Dynasty's warships shifted their focus, the wormhole's event horizon began to take on an ominous glow, powerful energy beams carving deep furrows in the fabric of spacetime. Aboard the Endeavour, Captain Emily Harrington watched with growing unease as the situation rapidly deteriorated. Lieutenant Commander Chen, status report, Harrington demanded, her voice taut with tension. The Dynasty forces are blocking our escape route, Captain, Chen replied, her fingers flying across her console. Their weapons fire is destabilizing the wormhole's event horizon. We'll never make it through in one piece at this rate. Harrington's brow furrowed as she contemplated their dwindling options. Can we punch through their blockade? Chen shook her head grimly. Negative, Captain. Their numbers and firepower are too overwhelming. We'd be destroyed before we even reached the wormhole. A heavy silence fell over the bridge as the crew grappled with the grim reality of their predicament. Harrington's mind raced, desperately searching for a way to turn the tide of the battle. Suddenly, a thought struck her, and her expression hardened with determination. Lieutenant Commander, patch me through to the Galanar fleet, she commanded. It's time we put our new allies to the test. Chen's eyes widened slightly, but she obeyed without hesitation, opening a channel to the Galanar vessels. Moments later, the stern visage of Captain Selros appeared on the view screen. Captain Harrington, we are holding the Dynasty forces at bay, but their firepower is taking a heavy toll on my ships. Selros reported, his voice tinged with a hint of concern. If you have a plan to escape, I suggest you put it into motion quickly. Harrington nodded, her expression grim. I do, Captain Selros, but I'll need your help. Are your ships capable of generating a concentrated gravitational field? Selros' brow furrowed in thought. A gravitational field? Yes, our vessels are equipped with specialized ion drives that could theoretically accomplish such a feat. But why would you? I need you to create a gravitational distortion in front of the wormhole. Harrington interrupted, her tone urgent. Disrupt the Dynasty's weapons fire, and give us the opening we need to make the jump. Selros' eyes widened as he grasped the implications of Harrington's plan. A daring maneuver, Captain Harrington, but it will leave my ships vulnerable to the Dynasty's assault. Harrington's expression hardened. I know, Captain Selros. That's why I need you to focus your fire on the Dynasty's command ship. Take out their admiral, and the rest of their fleet will falter. Selros was silent for a long moment, his gaze unflinching as he considered the risks. Finally, he gave a curt nod. Very well, Captain Harrington. We will do what we must to ensure your escape. May the gods be with us all. The view screen winked out, and Harrington turned to her crew, her eyes blazing with determination. You heard the man. People, prepare the engines for maximum warp. As soon as that gravitational field is in place, we're going to make our move. The bridge erupted into a flurry of activity as the crew carry out their captain's orders, their faces etched with a mix of fear and resolve. Harrington stood at the center of it all, her hands clenched into fists, silently praying that their gamble would pay off. The fate of not only their vessel, but an entire civilization now hung in the balance. As the Galanar resistance ships surged forward, their powerful ion drives generating a concentrated gravitational field that disrupted the Galactic Dynasty's weapons fire, Captain Emily Harrington knew their window of opportunity was slim. With a terse nod, she turned to the helm officer. Now, helm. Maximum warp, straight for the wormhole. The human vessel Endeavour's engines roared to life, the sleek craft hurtling forward with unprecedented speed. Harrington watched with bated breath as the wormhole's event horizon loomed ever closer, her crew bracing themselves for the turbulent passage. Shields at 80% and holding, Captain. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen reported, her fingers flying across her console. We're almost through. Harrington gripped the armrests of her chair, her knuckles white. Keep pushing, Helm. Don't slow down for anything." With a deafening thunderclap, the Endeavour plunged into the swirling vortex, the crew fighting to maintain control as the wormhole's energies buffeted the ship. Harrington held her breath, her eyes fixed on the view screen as they hurtled through the distortion. Then, in a blinding flash of light, they emerged on the other side, the void of space stretching out before them. Harrington let out a ragged sigh of relief, her shoulders sagging slightly. "Status report," she commanded, her voice betraying a hint of weariness. "We made it through, Captain," Chen replied, a faint smile playing on her lips. "Sensors indicate the wormhole is stabilized. The Dynasty ships are still on the other side, unable to pursue us." Harrington nodded, her expression grim. "And the Galanar vessels?" Chen's smile faded, her features etching with concern. "They're still engaged with the Dynasty fleet, taking heavy damage. Captain Selrose is requesting immediate extraction." Harrington's jaw tightened. "Put him through." The view screen flickered to life, revealing the battered but resolute visage of the Galanar commander. "Captain Harrington, your escape was a success, but my ships cannot hold out much longer against the Dynasty's onslaught." "We're coming back for you, Captain Selrose," Harrington replied, her voice laced with determination. "Just hang on a little longer." Selrose shook his head solemnly. "There is no time, Captain Harrington. Our only chance is for you to flee while you can. The Galactic Dynasty must be stopped, and you are the key to that. Go while you still have the chance." Harrington's brow furrowed, her heart sinking. "I can't just abandon you and your people, Captain Selrose. We're in this fight together." "You must," Selrose insisted, his expression hardening with resolve. "The fate of the galaxy depends on you and your crew reaching safety. We will hold the line here, for as long as we can." He paused, his gaze softening slightly. "Go, and do what must be done." With a nod of reluctant acceptance, Harrington turned to her crew. "You heard the man. Set a course for the nearest occupied system, maximum warp. We need to get word out about the Galactic Dynasty's atrocities." As the Endeavor's engines roared to life once more, Harrington cast one last, sorrowful glance at the view screen, where the battered forms of the Galanar vessels were slowly being overwhelmed by the Dynasty's relentless assault. With a heavy heart, she watched as the image faded into the distance, her mind already racing with the implications of their narrow escape. "Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Dynasty fleet." Chen's voice cut through the somber silence. "They're demanding our immediate surrender." Harrington's expression hardened. "Patch them through." The haughty visage of Admiral Xendra appeared on the view screen, her features twisted into a contemptuous sneer. "So, the human filth has slipped through our grasp, but you cannot hide forever, Captain Harrington. The Galactic Dynasty will hunt you down and crush you, no matter how far you run." Harrington met the Admiral's gaze unflinchingly. "That's where you're wrong, Xendra. The Galactic Dynasty's reign of terror ends today. We're taking this fight to your doorstep, and we won't stop until your entire rotten empire has crumbled." Xendra's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Brave words, human. But you and your pathetic crew will soon learn the true cost of defying the Galactic Dynasty." "We'll see about that," Harrington countered, her lips curling into a grim smile. "In the meantime, you can tell your masters that we're coming for them. And this time, we won't be so easy to dismiss." With a final, withering glare, Xendra severed the transmission, her image vanishing from the view screen. Harrington turned to her crew, her expression resolute. "All right, people, listen up. We may have escaped the Dynasty's clutches for now, but the real fight is just beginning. We need to find a way to rally the rest of the galaxy against their tyranny, and we need to do it fast. Because if we fail, the fate of every civilization in the known universe will be at stake." The bridge erupted in a chorus of determined acknowledgments, the crew's faces etched with a newfound sense of purpose. Harrington nodded, her gaze sweeping across the faces of her loyal crew. "Let's get to work," she said, her voice ringing with conviction. The future of the galaxy depends on us. As the human vessel Endeavour raced through the void, Captain Emily Harrington knew they were running out of time. The Galactic Dynasty would not rest until they had hunted down and destroyed her crew, and with the sacrifice of their newfound Galanar allies still weighing heavily on their minds, failure was simply not an option. Lieutenant Commander Chen, status report. Harrington called out, her brow furrowed in concentration. We've made contact with several other resistance cells across the galaxy, Captain, Chen replied, her fingers flying across her console. They've agreed to rendezvous with us at the coordinates you specified. Harrington nodded, a faint glimmer of hope sparking in her eyes. Excellent. Once we have them in position, we'll be ready to put our plan into action. Captain, I must express my concerns. A deep, rumbling voice interjected, drawing Harrington's attention to the far side of the bridge. She turned to face the hulking figure of Chief Engineer Mikhail Volkov, his brow furrowed in a rare display of uncertainty. Speak your mind, Mikhail. The burly Russian officer took a steadying breath before continuing. This plan of ours, it is incredibly risky. We are outnumbered and outgunned by the dynasty's forces. Even with the aid of these resistance groups, I do not like our chances of success. Harrington's expression softened with understanding. I know the odds are against us, Mikhail, but we can't afford to play it safe any longer. The Galactic Dynasty has to be stopped, and we're the only ones who can do it. And what of our crew? Volkov pressed, his voice tinged with a rare hint of emotion. We are asking them to put their lives on the line for a cause that may very well be hopeless. Harrington's gaze hardened with resolve. I won't lie to them, Mikhail. They know the risks, and they're willing to take them. Because the alternative, allowing the dynasty's tyranny to continue unchecked, is simply unacceptable. The engineer held her gaze for a long moment, his features etched with conflicting emotions. Finally, he gave a curt nod. Very well, Captain. I will make sure the engines and weapons are ready. But if this goes badly, it won't, Harrington interrupted, her tone brooking no argument. We're going to win this, Mikhail. For the Galanar, for Earth, and for every civilization the Galactic Dynasty has crushed under its heel. Volkov merely grunted in response, turning back to his station, and Harrington couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for the weight he and the rest of her crew were bearing. But she also knew that now was not the time for doubt or hesitation. They had come too far to turn back. Lieutenant Commander Chen, hail the resistance fleet. It's time we put our plan into motion. The view screen flickered to life, revealing the determined faces of her newfound allies, representatives from a dozen different alien civilizations, all united in their hatred of the Galactic Dynasty. Captain Harrington, we're ready, a Voskan commander announced, his eyes gleaming with a fierce resolve. Our ships are in position, awaiting your signal. Harrington nodded, her expression grim. Then let's not keep the dynasty waiting. All ships, converge on the coordinates I'm transmitting. It's time we pay a visit to the Imperial capital. As the resistance fleet surged forward, Harrington turned to her crew, her voice ringing with conviction. Men and women of the Endeavour, this is our moment. For too long, the Galactic Dynasty has trampled over the rights and freedoms of countless civilizations. Today, we stand united in our defiance of their tyranny. Whatever happens out there, know that you are all heroes. Heroes who have chosen to fight for a better tomorrow, no matter the cost. The crew erupted into a thunderous cheer, their faces etched with a mix of fear and determination. Harrington allowed herself a faint smile, her heart swelling with pride at the sight of her loyal crew. Now let's go show the Galactic Dynasty what humanity is truly capable of. As the Endeavour and the Resistance fleet drew closer to the dynasty's capital world, the view screen came alive with the ominous silhouettes of the mighty Imperial warships, their weapons systems primed and ready. Captain, the dynasty fleet is mobilizing to intercept us, Chen reported, her voice tense. Harrington's jaw tightened. All ships, concentrate your firepower on the dynasty's command vessel. We need to take out their admiral if we're going to have any chance of breaking through their defenses." The Resistance fleet surged forward, their weapons blazing, as the two armadas collided in a dazzling display of firepower. Harrington watched with bated breath as the human vessel and its allies pressed their assault, their coordinated strikes gradually chipping away at the Dynasty's formidable shielding. "Captain, the Dynasty's command ship has sustained critical damage," Chen announced, her voice tinged with a hint of triumph. "Their admiral has been neutralized." Harrington felt a surge of relief wash over her. "Excellent work, everyone. Now full speed ahead. We need to reach the Imperial Palace before the Dynasty can regroup." As the Endeavor and the Resistance fleet pushed ever deeper into the heart of the Galactic Dynasty's domain, Harrington steeled herself for the final, decisive confrontation. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and she knew that failure was simply not an option. "Hold on, my friends," she murmured, her gaze fixed on the distant horizon. "We're coming." As the Endeavor and the Resistance fleet surged towards the Galactic Dynasty's imperial capital, the sheer scale of the massive ornate palace looming before them was enough to give even the most seasoned of commanders pause. Yet, in the face of this imposing sight, Captain Emily Harrington's expression remained resolute, her eyes narrowed with determination. "All ships, prepare for landing," she commanded, her voice ringing with authority. "We need to move quickly before the Dynasty has a chance to regroup." The fleet began its descent, the powerful engines of the various vessels carrying them swiftly through the upper atmosphere and towards the palace's sprawling grounds. Harrington gripped the armrests of her chair, her knuckles turning white as she watched the scene unfold. "Captain, our ground forces are reporting minimal resistance," Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen reported, her fingers flying across her console. "It seems the Dynasty's troops are in disarray following the loss of their admiral." Harrington allowed herself a faint smile. "Excellent. Then let's not keep them waiting. Helm, take us in for a landing." As the Endeavor touched down amidst the resplendent gardens surrounding the Imperial Palace, Harrington and her senior officers quickly disembarked, leading a contingent of heavily armed Marines towards the grand entrance. The massive doors swung open as they approached, revealing a scene of utter chaos within. Dynasty soldiers, their once crisp uniforms in disarray, scrambled to mount a defense, their weapons fire echoing off the ornate marble walls. Harrington and her team surged forward, their own weapons blazing, quickly overwhelming the hapless guards. "Fan out and secure the area," Harrington barked, her gaze sweeping across the stunned faces of the Resistance fighters. "We need to reach the throne room and apprehend the High Council before they have a chance to escape." The team split up, their footsteps thundering through the expansive corridors as they pushed deeper into the palace. Harrington led the charge, her mind racing with the implications of their daring mission. If all went according to plan, they would soon come face to face with the very heart of the Galactic Dynasty's ruling elite, a prospect that both thrilled and terrified her in equal measure. Finally, the team reached the ornate doors of the throne room, the sounds of panicked voices and the clatter of hurried footsteps filtering through the thick carved wood. Harrington raised a hand, signaling her team to take position. Then, with a nod, she steeled herself and pushed the doors open. The sight that greeted them was one of sheer chaos. The members of the High Council, their once regal attire disheveled, were frantically attempting to flee the chamber, their faces etched with a mix of fear and rage. "Stop them," Harrington commanded, her voice ringing with authority. "By order of the free peoples of the galaxy, you are all under arrest." The Resistance fighters surged forward, their weapons trained on the panicked counselors. One by one, the members of the High Council were apprehended, their futile attempts at resistance quickly overwhelmed by the disciplined onslaught. As the last of the counselors was subdued, Harrington strode towards the ornate throne, her gaze sweeping across the grand, gilded chamber. With a heavy sigh, she sank into the opulent seat, the weight of her victory settling upon her shoulders. "Captain Harrington." Harrington looked up to see Lieutenant Commander Chen approaching, her expression one of both triumph and trepidation. "The resistance forces have secured the palace," Chen reported, her voice tinged with awe. "The Galactic Dynasty's reign of terror is over." Harrington nodded, her lips curving into a faint smile. "Then our work here is done. Contact the Galinar and the other resistance leaders. It's time we start the process of rebuilding." In the days that followed, as the news of the Galactic Dynasty's downfall spread through the galaxy, the once subjugated peoples emerged from the shadows, their spirits renewed with a sense of hope and determination. Across the stars, new alliances were forged, and the foundations of a new, more equitable galactic order began to take shape. Captain Harrington watched this transformation with a mix of pride and humility, her crew by her side as they navigated the complexities of this brave new world. Gone were the days of the dynasty's iron grip, replaced by a vision of cooperation, mutual understanding, and a shared commitment to the ideals of freedom and justice. As the Endeavour charted a course for the distant reaches of known space, Harrington couldn't help but reflect on the incredible journey they had undertaken. They had faced insurmountable odds, weathered unimaginable hardships, and emerged victorious against the most formidable power the galaxy had ever known. "We did it, my friends," she murmured, her gaze fixed on the kaleidoscope of stars stretching out before them. "We showed the Galactic Dynasty that you don't mess with humanity." The crew erupted into a chorus of cheers, their spirits high as they contemplated the boundless possibilities that lay ahead. Harrington smiled, her heart swelling with pride. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was free, and it was all thanks to the courage and determination of a small, but resilient, human crew. As the Endeavour surged forward, Harrington knew that their story was only just beginning. The future was theirs to shape, and she couldn't wait to see what incredible feats they would accomplish next. "Onward, my friends," she said, her voice ringing with conviction. "The galaxy awaits."